Welcome to White People, Black Music, and Liberation. I'm Eric, and I'm here on the journey with you. This is a transmission at the intersection of race, music, and spirituality. It's about moving past the programming and into liberation. In our first conversation, one thing that stood out was how much of a wound racism is for everyone and how hard it is to even talk about. And that's what's being referenced at the end when Matt asks, why should we even care about racism? It's such a simple question, yet it really cuts to the core. And then finally, Matt opens up about some of his spiritual practices. I think this is another direction that the transmissions could go, looking at really specific practices that support liberation from racism and our conditioning around race. Too often, we only really talk about spirituality in general terms, like unblocking, without sharing anything about the concrete practices that we actually do. And I know that spiritual practice has been deeply helpful for me, but honestly, sometimes I'm a bit scared to share it because I don't know how it's going to land with other people, even though it's been really helpful for me, not only in working with racism, but with life in general. So if that is something you'd like to hear more about, let me know, leave a comment, or send an email. And then finally, Matt opens up about some of his spiritual practices. I think this is another direction that the transmissions could go, looking at really specific practices that support liberation from racism and our conditioning around race. Too often, we only really talk about spirituality in general terms, like unblocking, without sharing anything about the concrete practices that we actually do. And I know that spiritual practice has been deeply helpful for me, but honestly, sometimes I'm a bit scared to share it because I don't know how it's going to land with other people, even though it's been really helpful for me, not only in working with racism, but with life in general. So if that is something you'd like to hear more about, let me know, leave a comment, or send an email. Okay, here we go.
And then there's kind of like this other dimension of this conversation, which is like around how a spiritual practice can help us work with like ourselves in deeper ways, and like unblocking or letting go of certain things, et cetera, et cetera. I'm wondering if that's been a piece of your work too, and if so, what that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I think, for me, my own inner practice or spiritual practice is really central in trying to help me navigate all of these things. And like, I was talking about growing and learning and trying to transform things inside of myself that might be blocks, that would, get in the way of me being able to actually work and support things moving in healthier and healthier directions, like seeing those aspects of myself that I still need to work on. And definitely like my own inner practice or spiritual practice is a big part of that, of helping me, supporting me in doing that. So like one way maybe to frame that could be, trying to consistently make time and space to go into a deeper place where I can actually hold whatever I'm going through or experiencing or questions around any of these things in a more like sacredly held way. That's not just like in my day-to-day thinking, going through my day-to-day life, but actually taking time to sit and take a moment and hold it in a different kind of way, open a different kind of space. So for me, I have like a meditation practice, and that's something I try to start my day with every day. And it's a time where I'll step out of the day-to-day life process and go, turn the phone off and turn off anything that's connected to, just being in touch with the outer world, and go into a more of an inner space. And that really supports for me. And I think one of the ways that it supports is like, in terms of these questions around race and racial justice and working with white identity and all of these different questions. One, I guess the image that's coming to my mind is, in my day-to-day thinking, I can be in so many of the patterned ways of thinking and like nonstop thoughts and fears and doubts and anxieties and inspirations, and like all, like just this like constant flow of experience and thoughts and feelings, and taking a moment to sort of step out of that constant movement and hold a space for like a deeper level of perceiving what's going on.
Yeah.
A deeper level of looking at things. And for me, a lot of times connected to being in my heart more. And from there, maybe being able to more honestly see, what are the blocks? What are the things in my space around these racial justice questions that don't feel like courage? That don't feel like love? That feel like something that I'm afraid of, that has become a pattern that might dictate the way I think or the way I act.
Yeah.
And being able to like look at it more honestly in a space that supports that supports being able to get in touch with that deeper, and I think that deeper space for me can, definitely comes to my own personal meditation practice and contemplation practice. And it can come through a certain level of conversation where the conversation drops in to that deeper space. The conversation becomes a space to hold a sacred quality of thinking and feeling and connecting, where I might be able to see things more clearly because of the space we've dropped into in the conversation. And not just more clearly, but in a way that's more true to what's actually present.
Yeah.
And that can happen through music for me, through music writing. And throughout the years, different things, ceremony of different kinds that really support that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that you're calling that out. The conversation actually being a portal for truth, in our everyday lived experiences. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. For me, that's something that's been a really powerful space to share with other people when the conversation goes to that space.
Right.
And actually, like, some like a space where like something new can come in because of the way that we're two people or more are holding whatever's present in the moment, and giving our attention to it supports the possibility that something new can come through. And I've as I've observed that over the years, had this image or picture come a lot of like that in the space between two people it can be like a container that can hold a space for something else to come in. The space between us, there's this possibility that something else can come in. That can be really powerful and really helpful. In the same way that ceremony can be. The conversation becomes a sort of ceremonial space in a way.
I'm Eric, and this has been White People, Black Music, and Liberation. If this message speaks to you and you want to be part of the journey, head to whitepeopleblackmusic.com and let's build a world where liberation is for everyone.